हेलो एंड वेलकम टू हिट बुल्सआई। माय नेम इज मनीष और इस वीडियो में हम डिस्कस करेंगे थर्ड वीक ऑफ जनवरी 2023 के इम्पोर्टेंट करंट अफेयर्स। In case you have not subscribed to the channel already, do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that whenever we post these videos, you get the notifications regularly. Let us take a look at the topics in brief. First of all, the Indian Army Day or the National Army Day was celebrated in the third week of January. So we will see कि Army Day किस दिन मनाया जाता है, Army Day का लोगो क्या होता है, इसका मोटो क्या होता है, and why do we celebrate it on this very day specifically. Second, India's first center of excellence in online gaming. So apparently, COVID-19 and digital penetration in the last few years has changed the face of online gaming, not only in India but also in the entire world. So much so that we are going to get a center of excellence for online gaming. आज से कुछ साल पहले तक अगर हम कहते कि online gaming के लिए एक center of excellence establish हो रहा है, so we would have laughed at such a conclusion. But now we actually have got that, even though it is India's first, but we have got that. So it reflects a change in the way we are thinking about this sector now. Then India's first 5G enabled drone, a news which had we done 3 to 4 years back would have looked quite far-sighted or maybe quite unrealistic. But now, after the launch of 5G, we actually have a 5G enabled drone. And in the last week's video, we had covered that Vidisha has become the first district of India to 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 display actual 5G use cases. कि कौन-कौन से cases में 5G बहुत अच्छे से work कर सकता है. So this is also a step in that direction. Then Miss Universe 2022, the pageant, it has recently been held, and we will see who has become Miss Universe, who has become the second, the runner-up, and also where does Miss India stand in that competition. Next, Oxfam report on inequality. For the last 3 years, or for the last 4 years actually, the report launched by Oxfam has been hinting at various forms of inequality in the world. First, because of COVID-19, then because of the, the impact of COVID-19 all those years. This year also, the report is titled "Survival of the Richest," which itself is, sarcastic. Survival of the richest. So we will take a look at that report in brief. Next, Virat Kohli has become the fifth highest scorer in one-day international cricket. We'll take a look at that. Then, Rajasthan has become the first state in India to implement blindness control policy. For the visually impaired, this is a specific policy for the first time launched by a state in India. Then Spanish Super Cup final हुआ है जिसमें बार्सिलोना ने रियल मैड्रिड को हराया है. In the final, Barcelona has defeated Real Madrid. We'll take a look at that. Then, in a very happy news for India, or in a very satisfying news for Indian diplomats and as a victory of India's foreign policy, United Nations Security Council has finally declared Abdul Makki, a Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorist, as a global terrorist under its sanctions committee. So we will take a look at that and a bit of the timeline to understand what was actually happening, and if it has happened this late, who was stopping it? We'll take a look. नेशनल स्टार्टअप डे 2023 पिछले साल डिक्लेयर किया गया था, 2022 में पहली बार मनाया गया था, इस बार दूसरी बार मनाया गया है. एंड फाइनली, first constitutional literate district in India. Like there is now a district in India in which every single person, most likely, every single person knows about their own fundamental rights, fundamental duties, and some basic legal rights that they are supposed to know. So India's first constitution literate district is there now. So we'll take a look at all these news. Let's start one by one. 75th Indian Army Day. Indian Army Day is celebrated on 15th of January every year. It was on this day actually when in 1949, when the country got its first Indian chief, Lieutenant General K.M. Cariappa. इंडिया के पहले इंडियन आर्मी चीफ बने थे लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल के.एम. करियप्पा, and he took over from General Francis Butcher. General Francis Butcher was the chief of Indian Army under the British. So he was the last British to occupy the position of India's Army General. So the first Indian Army General was K.M. Kariappa. And to mark or to commemorate this particular day when an Indian took over that role, we celebrate it as the Army Day. And it happened in 1949. The motto of the Indian Army is service before self. Service before self. And Indian Army वैसे कब शुरू हुई थी? 1 April 1895. 1st of April 1895, Indian Army was started and its name was British Indian Army. After independence, the nomenclature was changed and then the chief was also changed from a British to an Indian, rightly so. इसलिए हम इस दिन को आर्मी डे मनाते हैं. India's first center of excellence in online gaming. Now, if this was not, uh, you know, a very unexpected news, so to say, where this center is being opened is even more unexpected. It's being opened in Shillong. So, had this center been opening in a city like Bengaluru or maybe Hyderabad or maybe Gurgaon or Delhi, we would have been like, okay, but it is opening in Shillong, which shows that this kind of a economic activity, online gaming, visual arts, or maybe animation, we have a special thing for it in the Northeast. Our government is trying to make that region a hub of all these activities. So Digital India Startup Hub is opening India's first center of excellence in online gaming at Shillong. So Minister of State for Electronics and IT and Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Rajiv Chandrasekhar ने announce किया. And it is expected to catalyze startups and entrepreneurs from the entire Northeast region to build the next generation online gaming ecosystem. The next wave of startups and entrepreneurs must come from Shillong, Kohima, and other parts of the Northeast India. That is what the government of India thinks about it. They think that this region has the potential to generate a lot of entrepreneurs and startups in the online gaming ecosystem, and that is the reason why the first center of excellence has opened in Shillong. Now that is a really nice thing to hear, because generally most of the sectors, they are in this part of India, but to have a specific niche for a particular sector to be in the northeastern region is really unheard of, and I think this is a welcome move. It will give a huge boost to the economy of Northeast, no doubt about it. India's first 5G enabled drone, इसका नाम होगा Skyhawk. Skyhawk, right? And it has been developed by IG Drones. It's a startup firm. Its name is IG Drones. It was born out of Veer Surendra Sai University of Technology, VSSUT campus in Odisha's Sambalpur. So not from some very fancy or very well-known university or IIT. It has come from a humble university, which shows the the extent of talent we have in various parts of India. And it has been developed as a 5G enabled drone that is capable of vertical takeoff and landing. It is a VTOL drone, vertical takeoff and landing drone, and can be operated from any terrain without the need for a runway. It's not a very small drone, it's a big size drone, but generally drones or unmanned aerial vehicles, they require a long runway to take off and to land. But this is like a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft or drone. So this increases the efficiency, operational efficiency of a drone multiple times. इसका नाम रखा गया है स्काईहॉक. ये 10 किलो तक का पेलोड लेके जा सकता है और 5 घंटे तक की इसकी एंड्योरेंस है, which makes it really useful. Using drones and GIS technology, they have saved hundreds of thousands of lives in national disasters like Assam floods, Amphan cyclone, Fani cyclone, Jajpur floods, Maharashtra floods. These drones are really, really helpful in saving hundreds of thousands of lives during all these natural disasters. And National Disaster Response Force is able to you know, channelize its response to any such natural disaster in really less amount of time and very effectively with the help of such drones. और 5G की help से ये चीजें, ये you know, the internet connectivity getting so fast, this the usual use factors or the use cases of drones has gone much higher. That is something that is really nice. Miss Universe. So R. Bonnie Gabriel, Ms. R. Bonnie Gabriel, she has become the Miss Universe 2022 and she is Miss USA. Okay, so she Miss United States, R. Bonnie Gabriel is now Miss Universe. Last year, Indian Harnaz Sandhu was Miss Universe. This year, it is Miss USA. And so India's Harnaz Kaur Sandhu presented her the crown because the previous Miss Universe hands over her title to the next one. India's contestant this year was Divita Rai. So Divita Rai ended up in the top 16 but could not make it to the top 5. There are only 3 Indians till date who have won this particular title. The first was Sushmita Sen in 1994. The second was Lara Datta in the year 2000. And the third was Harnaz Kaur Sandhu in 2021. 3 Indians who have won this coveted title. Oxfam report on inequality. Oxfam report. This report basically shows the gap between the rich and the poor, the gap between the haves and the have-nots. So if you look at this report, the richest 1% of Indians, the richest 1% of Indians own over 13 times more wealth than the bottom 50%. That is a huge gap. Richest 1% own 13 times more wealth than the bottom 50%. So the top 5% of Indians own 61.7% of the total wealth in India. This is the extent of inequality that we have in India. The name of the report is Survival of the Richest, the Indian Supplement, which shows that COVID-19 has actually widened the inequality in India. The rich have become richer and the poor have become poorer, have lost a lot of money due to loss of income streams or maybe due to you know, a rise of inflation or because of so many other reasons. Next, Virat Kohli has become the 5th highest run scorer in one-day international format. He has scored 12,652 runs. 12,600 रन बना के ये 5th हाईएस्ट स्कोरर बने हैं ओडीआई में. फर्स्ट रैंक अभी भी सचिन तेंदुलकर के पास है with 18,400 approximately 18,400 runs. सेकंड पे आते हैं कुमार संगकारा, थर्ड पे रिकी पॉन्टिंग, फोर्थ पे सनत जयसूर्या और फिफ्थ पे आते हैं विराट कोहली. सो दिस इज द रैंक, बट विराट कोहली इज नाउ द 5th हाईएस्ट run scorer in one-day international. Next, Rajasthan has become the first state in India to implement blindness control policy under the Nirogi Rajasthan Smriddh Rajasthan scheme. Nirogi Rajasthan, Samriddh Rajasthan, that means disease-free Rajasthan, prosperous Rajasthan. This is the scheme run by the state government. Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot has implemented this policy with the objective of right to sight. There is no such fundamental right. It's just a simple right created by the state, right to sight. So under this, Rajasthan has become the first state to have such a policy. And the aim is there are 3 lakh people suffering from visual impairment in Rajasthan. To give all of them the sight or the right to sight is the purpose of this policy. 3 लाख ऐसे लोग हैं राजस्थान में जो देख नहीं सकते. उन सबको उनकी सबकी सफरिंग को दूर करना इस स्कीम का पर्पस है. The prevalence rate of blindness in the country as a whole is 1.1%, which is a huge number. If you look at the population of India, which is approximately 1.4 billion, or so to say 141 crore. So 1.1% means approximately 1.5 crore people in India are visually impaired who cannot see. That's a huge number considering the population of India. So ऐसे initiatives से हम इसको कम करके 0.3% पे लेके आ सकते हैं. There are so many things that are needed to be done. We need to have a public health care system. We need to have an organ donation policy, which has to be mandatory at some point in time. Otherwise, people usually do not volunteer. तो ऐसा कुछ अगर हम पूरे इंडिया में इम्प्लीमेंट करें अच्छे से, तो हम इस ब्लाइंडनेस रेट को 1.1 से कम करके 0.3% पे लेके आ सकते हैं. दैट मीन्स approximately 1 crore people in India can be cured of their visual impairedness or their blindness just by implementing it in the right earnest. And Rajasthan has started that. Barcelona Football Club has won the Spanish Super Cup final, and it has defeated Real Madrid. Victory over Real Madrid has given Barcelona this title. Robert Lewandowski, Gavi and Pedri, they scored a goal each. एक गोल इन्होंने किया, और ये हुआ कहाँ पे है? रियाद में. So apparently the Middle East is now emerging as the preferred destination for all these football matches after Al Nassr bought Ronaldo. So it seems that Qatar World Cup 2022 will turn out to be a watershed in the history of football tournaments in the world, because it seems that the Arab world has realized that since they have a lot of money that they have accumulated by selling oil all these decades, so now they seem to have found a new way to reinvigorate themselves, whether in the form of economy, whether in the form of tourism, whether in the form of economic focus on themselves in a good way. So it seems that for the next few decades to go, or at least for the next 10 to 15 years, we will see more and more countries like UAE, like Bahrain, like Saudi Arabia coming forward to host many more such sporting events, and creating all these football leagues and other sports leagues, which is a welcome change, which is reflected here as well. So Barcelona is now a 14-time winner, and Real Madrid was a 12-time winner. Both these two are, the maximum time winners of the Super Cup. But this year it is Barcelona. United Nations Security Council has declared Abdul Makki as a global terrorist. Finally, after almost 10 years of the insistence of India, and after almost 4 times being blocked by China, finally China has lifted its technical hold on this sanctions committee process, and finally he has been sanctioned. So UN Security Council's 1267 Al Qaeda Sanctions Committee, 1267 Al Qaeda Sanctions Committee, this committee has finally sanctioned Abdul Makki. He has been involved in raising funds, recruiting, radicalizing the youth. They have planned attacks in India. They have carried out attacks in India, especially in Jammu and Kashmir. And he is already a designated terrorist in India and in USA. But Pakistan refused to believe that, refused to admit that. But now finally, China has lifted its technical hold, and he is now designated as a UN international terrorist. What happens once a terrorist is designated like that? There is a travel ban on that terrorist, cannot travel anywhere in the world. There is a freeze on transactions, there is a freeze on their bank accounts, their assets, all those things are done. But of course, at the end of the day, the actual legal action has to be taken by the legal system of that country, which Pakistan does not do. And he belongs to Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jamaat-ud-Dawa. He's actually the brother-in-law of uh, Hafiz Saeed. He's a brother-in-law of Hafiz Saeed, who is wanted for so many terror attacks in India. So finally, he has been designated, which is the first step, not the final one, to get him prosecuted. National Startup Day. We are seeing a lot of activity in India's startup ecosystem for the last few years, especially since the start of the Startup India program in 2016. And that program was launched on 16th of January 2016, the Startup India program. And to commemorate that day, the Prime Minister last year in 2022 declared 16th of January as the National Startup Day. And hence, 16th of January was celebrated as the National Startup Day. The nodal agency here is Department of Promotion for Industry and Internal Trade. DPIIT है वो डिपार्टमेंट जो कि नोडल अथॉरिटी है किसी भी स्टार्टअप को अप्रूव करने के लिए, उसे डिसअप्रूव करने के लिए। और स्टार्टअप इंडिया इनिशिएटिव के अंदर 3 मेन इनिशिएटिव्स लिए गए। नंबर 1, सिंप्लीफिकेशन एंड हैंड होल्डिंग। एनीवन who wants to start a new business, be it manufacturing or service, simplified. The processes were simplified, single window clearances were provided, easy funding was provided, and hand holding. Like they will be taught, they will be, they will be monitored, and they will be supported each step on the way. Funding and incentives. So many funds were created by the center. Various state governments also created those. Various venture capitalists came forward. Various angel investors started investing. It sort of developed as a culture. And that is why we are witnessing so many startups going big, like, so many food delivery firms, so many e-commerce firms, so many financial technology firms, to the extent that we now have almost 108 unicorns in India. And a unicorn is a business having more than $1 billion of valuation. Converting it to US currency, it is approximately 8,000 crore rupees. So any business having a valuation of over 8,000 crore rupees is a unicorn in India. And to this day, we have more than 108 unicorns in India who are the new started businesses in the last 5 to 6 years. And finally, incubation and industry academic partnerships. Incubation centers or training centers have been started in various higher education institutions and universities where the students are being readied for the industry. There is a gap between what is taught in the colleges and what is expected in the industry. So these incubation centers are trying to bridge that gap. So for example, let's say there is a civil engineer. It's not the case that a civil engineer will walk out of his degree and will be able to go and join a project straight away. That is not the case, because in India there is a lot of gap between what is taught in the college or school and what is there in the industry. So incubation center helps to bridge that gap. It makes the students industry ready, thereby helping the startups also, and thereby helping the students as well. So industry academy partnerships and incubation, both the things are being done. So it has been touted as a huge success by the economists as well as by the entrepreneurs alike. Finally, the first constitution literate district in India. Whenever we hear about literacy or whenever we hear about healthcare or education, there is one state that comes to our mind, which is mostly at the top across all these indicators. If you have thought about Kerala, that is the correct answer. So Kerala has a district called Kollam, which has become the first district in India to have constitutional literacy, like to the fullest, 100%. It happened because of a 7-month campaign in which more than 2 to 3,000 uh, coaches, or let's say teachers, were deployed in various parts of the state by the Kerala Institute of Local Administration, District Planning Committee, and the Kollam District Panchayat. So the local bodies as well as the state bodies, they came together and they made it a point to make people aware about their rights, to make people aware about where they stood as a legal citizens. The aim was to provide constitutional literacy to 23 lakh citizens belonging to 7 lakh families in that one district alone. For this, awareness classes were organized for around 90% of the people of Kollam, everywhere, in schools, in colleges, in local body buildings, everywhere. So if we talk about Kollam, it's an ancient port city on the banks of Ashtamudi Lake in Kerala. So this has achieved seemingly unachievable. Now, what is the benefit of making a district, or let's say people, constitution literate? By doing so, people will get aware about their own status as legal citizens. And there is a maxim called ignorantia juris non excusat. ignorantia juris non excusat, which means ignorance of law is no excuse, or ignorance of law is not an excuse. That means that law expects everybody to know what the legal provisions are. It's like if I do a murder, I cannot say कि मुझे तो पता नहीं था कि murder करना एक जुर्म होता है इंडिया में. You cannot take a plea कि मुझे law की knowledge नहीं थी. Of course, the fine nitty-gritty of law you're not expected to know, but if you do something wrong, you cannot take the plea that I did not know that it was banned under the law. So this plea is not there. That means everybody is expected to know at least the basic law of the land, which is not the case if you talk about the people who are illiterate or maybe people who have never gone to school, right? So to teach those people that at least they should know the bare minimum, that these are your rights as a citizen, these are your duties as a citizen, and these are some of the other fine points about the Constitution of India, which if a person knows, it makes their life better, it makes them demand those rights from the administration, it makes their social economic status a bit better, because awareness is an integral part of every of the implementation of every government scheme. So if they are aware that we have all these rights, they will be able to ask questions about that, and by asking questions they will improve the delivery system, they will ensure proper implementation of these schemes. So this actually is a really good initiative that if we replicate across all the districts of India, it would be a really good step. In fact, I think personally that there should be a national scheme or something like that to make constitutional literacy a part of the entire India's curriculum. Just like we have made Fit India movement, that sports has to be inculcated in every person's life. Constitutional literacy should be a part of let's say a centrally sponsored scheme or a central sector scheme, so that every citizen of India gets to know what their rights and responsibilities are. That's all for this particular session. Thank you so much. If you like this video, do give us a thumbs up and also share it with your friends so that they can benefit from the same. See you next week. Till then, this is me, Manish Mittal, signing off. Thank you.